Welcome to another episode of UMass Sports Weekly. I'm your host, Casey Johnson. Good show lined up for you today. As always, started off NFL. 4-0 teams still on the map, Patriots being one of them, what we always like to hear. We'll cover the 4-0 teams and get into an in-depth talk with some of our analysts about the season. Follow that up with UMass Athletics. Little controversy in the football department with Coach Molnar. We'll get into that with our expert, JMS. And to finish it off, we'll be covering NHL beginning of the season. Tonight, actually, starting off October 1st. It's going to be a good one on UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
Welcome to another episode of UMass Sports Weekly. Started out here at the fantasy table. Joining me, Chris Potomatis, Adamo Polzone, and Chris Corso. 4-0 teams. We talked 0-3 teams last week. We'll get to that in a bit. We're going to start off with the 4-0 teams. Patriots being one of them, which, I always like to hear around this time of year. We got Denver, Kansas City, Seattle, New England, and New Orleans. All powerhouses, all 4-0. What do you guys think is the best of these 4-0 teams?
I think it's pretty obvious that we got to go with Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. When you look at this team, they're having a record-breaking season. They have the most points scored through 4 weeks of the season out of any team in NFL history, and that's because of Peyton Manning. He is totally dominating. They have the number one total offense and number one passing offense in the NFL. They also have the number one rushing defense in the NFL. That's a great combination. There's no other team that has all of this combined. They have a decent rushing attack. That's their only weakness, but Peyton Manning running that quick offense, that no-huddle offense, he's got weapons all over the place. I think all these weapons coming together, he's got a solid defense, one of the best in the league. I think this is the team that everyone knows is the Super Bowl favorite going into the season.
Yeah, a little surprising with their D missing Champ Bailey and Von Miller. Who do you got, Damo?
Oh, I definitely got Denver Broncos, and you got to look at it. Between all these teams, only the Broncos are beating every single matchup by at least 2 possessions. The Broncos are completely dominant, and even without Von Miller, their defense is still number one. So it's got to be the Broncos, and yeah, I don't see any other team taking the top spot anytime soon.
Yeah, Peyton Manning playing some of the best football of his career. Kind of scary to say that with the career he's had.
He's 39 years old, and he's thrown 16 touchdowns in 4 games and 1,500 yards already. It's ridiculous.
What's he on pace for? It's 64?
Oh, my God. That's
at
least
unheard of. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He did this like 10 years ago. He's still doing it.
I mean, but you got to give it to the receiving core, too. He's had it pretty easy. He's had his Reggie Wayne, and then he goes to a receiving core like this. It's been pretty easy for him.
Yeah, I mean, like this offense, we've seen it with the past with the Patriots, Gronkowski, Hernandez, Walker, all those guys. Now at Denver, it's like Patriots West, or what the Pats used to be. I mean, Julius Thomas, the tight end, has been a huge discovery for them. Demaryius Thomas really stepping up and being that next level wide receiver that Peyton Manning's always had. Eric Decker has been valuable. Wes Welker, we all know what Wes Welker does. He has 6 touchdown catches already this year. So he's finding the end zone, which is something that he didn't always do with the Patriots. He was a guy in, but until he had to hit the red zone, they would use him a lot. And then in their running game, they have no Sean Moreno, Monte Ball, Ronnie Hillman. I mean, so they're balanced. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball, and defensively, like you said, no Champ Bailey, no Von Miller, and they're still playing very well. They're still getting pressure on the quarterback. Their secondary is still very good. I mean, they look like the team to beat right now. The only thing that could stop them is maybe Peyton in the postseason. He hasn't had exactly the best postseason record, so maybe that's where the hiccup happens. But right now, I mean, it's hard to choose against them.
Yeah, now, these are all some great offense. I mean, Denver, great offense. But all these 4-0 teams, great offense. That's a given. But I think what we're seeing is that defense is really winning games. You got Denver's D, like you said, best rush D. Seattle's D, which is insane. You saw Richard Sherman's interception touchdown. Pat's D playing some of the best we've seen in years since Rodney Harrison, Ty Law. You got Kansas City's D playing unbelievable. So I really think it's the defense you're seeing, and I think you're mostly seeing in the Pats with the offense they're lacking. Chris, what do you think of the Pats D this year?
The Pats D, I think that they have not shown us. They've looked good, but they've the games have been too close with the Jets, then the Bills, the Buccaneers. I just don't think that the Pats have what the Denver Broncos have in a full team. They're missing the wide receivers, and their defense seems a little weak. They just lost Wilfork, so Wilfork's not a guy you can replace. He's not a guy that just is out there to pick up. There's not a guy in their defensive line that's going to compare to him, draw the two men on the line the way Wilfork does. So losing him was a big loss for the defense, and I don't think the Patriots have they always have Tom Brady, and you can never count him out. We all know that. He's always going to get – I think they're still going to win about 12 games this year, maybe 13. But I think when it comes to playoff time, I think the Denver Broncos have a step over the Patriots this year. So I think it's going to be those two teams battling for the conference title in the AFC.
Yeah, definitely an exciting playoff showdown. See that you mentioned Vince Wilfork. You know, it's going to get mentioned around the league because he is one of the biggest players. But I think you really feel that injury in New England because Wilfork, he is the Brady of that defensive side. Absolutely. He's the veteran. He's unbelievable, reliable. And he's put Tommy Kelly back on the map. We were talking about him last week. Now he's really going to have to step up with a guy, Sal Villano, coming in next to him. What do you think is going to happen with that line there?
I mean, that D-line right now is looking young. Chandler Jones, second year. Ninkovich hasn't been in the league for a long time. Tommy Kelly has been, but then you look at the other guys that may replace Vince Wilfork. Joe Villano, rookie. I mean, this guy's an undrafted rookie. Other guys, Marcus Forson was with the team last year. Has been a practice squad back and forth. He's a guy, but I mean, really, that line is young right now. I think it's going to be a total team effort to really compound that. I think it's on the linebackers, too. I mean, Wilfork is known as a run stopper. He clogs the middle. So now Brandon Spice, I think he has to be a bigger run stopper at that second level. Same with guys like Dante Hightower and Gerard Mayo. They really have to step up and make sure that those guys aren't getting to that next level in the running game. Because Vince Wilfork in the passing game, usually on third down long, he's out with spikes because he doesn't get that huge pressure. But I think defensively, like we've been talking about, they need to just be able to keep getting pressure on the quarterback. Because, I mean, honestly, like I said last week, their secondary looks good. I mean, Aqib Talib has 4 picks already this year. He looks like a number one cornerback, and he's in a contract.
Well,
so I mean, right there, he's
trying to get that money.
Exactly, and right now, I mean, if he hit the market today, he'd be making $10 million a year right now, probably. So, I mean, defensively, it's a huge loss, especially in the running game. So I think everyone just has to step up. Belichick always talks, next man up, next man up. It's tough because guys like Wilfork don't grow on trees, from size or skill. But overall, if I think one team can replace a player, I think the Patriots can do that because of their system.
Let's hope they can. I mean, Aqib Talib, if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, I think we'll be all right in that secondary. Don't think we'll be seeing him in a Patriots uniform next year.
Probably not.
But I think we'll be happy to see him for the rest of this year. Want to touch on last night's game, Monday night. Saw a nice performance from the Saints there. Adamo, I got to call you out. You're out Miami, saying you could see them maybe taking over the AFC East.
Well, I mean, they were looking good.
What was final score? 39-17, I believe.
It was about 38-17.
38-17. So the D didn't really show up for them there and against one of the premier teams in the league. What do you still think of this Miami squad?
Well, the defense is still on par. I still think the defense is great, but I think their success really relies on Ryan Tannehill. If you looked at the first half, they were down by 2 possessions. Ryan Tannehill caused 2 turnovers. So, I mean, the Miami Dolphins win when Ryan Tannehill has a over-par game. You know what I mean? But, I mean, against New Orleans has such a great offense. So, New Orleans they scored 38 points, but it could have been a lot more. It could have been in the 50s had they played any other team. Miami still does have a great defense, I think. I still see them being a contender for the AFC East because I really think the Patriots defense is overrated, compared to you guys. Aqib Talib is great, but look who, he was covering. Roddy White. Roddy White's been struggling all season.
It was him and Julio Jones who has the 3rd most catches in the league. I mean, Jones is an absolute beast out there. So,
he is, but I mean,
he locked him down.
He did lock down.
I saw someone have a stat. Talib, when he was covering that guy had no catches all game long. So he allowed no catches against an offense that had.
I think I saw that stat, and I think he actually finished the game with 1 reception against them for 1 yard.
Against that receiving core, I'll take that every day.
Let's talk about the Patriots defense. That's otherwise, though, I mean, they still gave Atlanta, a struggling team. They're 1-3 right now. 23 points. They almost lost the game for the Patriots.
That's pretty good, though, I think.
I don't know.
But one was on an onside kick, so they had easy field position right there. They should have gotten at least a field goal. I mean, that game was 13-10 going to the fourth quarter. So through 3 quarters, 10 points against that offense.
Absolutely, that's one of the best offenses in the league.
Exactly. I mean, if you had told me going into the game that they would give 23 points to the Falcons, I would take that every time with that offense. I mean, especially in Atlanta, they put up 35, I think, easy.
Yeah, but I mean, when the offense plays so good for the Patriots and they give them a 2-possession lead and they almost blow it, that shows to me that they get really comfortable, I think. The Patriots defense is really comfortable. I'm still looking for Devin McCourty to show up. He's a below-average player. I'm not buying into Devin McCourty. Aqib Talib is the only defensive player right now that Wilfork's gone. So, that's my analysis.
Well, I think as a safety, his job is to make sure that the big plays don't happen. He isn't a cornerback anymore where he's covering
because
guys.
he's not good enough to be a cornerback.
Right, so they put him at safety where he's that last line of defense. I think he's been pretty good. If you don't hear a safety's name in the course of a game, that's usually a pretty good thing because he isn't having to track guys down.
All I'm saying is that the Patriots gets way too comfortable.
This is what separates the Broncos. You look at a team like the Saints last night. You look at the Patriots this weekend against the Falcons. Their defenses, I don't care what you say about the Saints last night, their defense did not look good against the Dolphins. I don't care what the score was.
That's the
Dolphins, they gave up a lot of big plays. Brian Hartline ripped them up. They had a bunch of they crumbled on third down a couple times. They got a couple of turnovers handed to them when Tannehill fumbled a couple times.
Yeah.
I just don't see these two defenses, we're talking about the Patriots and the Saints, comparing to the Denver Broncos or the Seahawks for that fact. Because the Seahawks and the Broncos have a defense that can change the game and win a ball game for them, as you saw in Seattle this weekend. Seattle's offense did not get the job done. They have a great offense, but it just wasn't their week. Russell Westbrook had a bad game. And it was the defense from Richard Sherman who took the game over for the team, and they won in overtime against the Houston Texans, who is one of the best offenses in the league, in my opinion.
So with those being your top squads, say you have yourself a Super Bowl matchup with Seattle and Denver. Now, I know you like Denver's defense. We know Seattle's defense is insane. Do you think Seattle's defense can contain Denver enough, that Denver offense enough to beat them? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's possible because as we've seen from Peyton Manning, he's the man in the regular season, year in, year out. He does his thing in the regular season. But when he gets to the postseason, these defenses sometimes give him problems. And I don't know what it is about the postseason.
Yeah.
He won 1 Super Bowl. We'll give him that. But in the past, you saw it this year. He crumbled against the Super Bowl champion Ravens in the conference championship there. So I think that there's a possibility that a team like Seattle, who's hot going into the playoffs as they were last year, I think they could win a Super Bowl based on their defense. So that's why Seattle and Denver, those are my Super Bowl favorites so far.
I think Seattle is Denver's worst nightmare because when you look at Peyton Manning, he has turned the ball over a lot in the postseason, and that secondary, they were aggressive. So if there's one team that I think would not be intimidated by Peyton Manning and all those weapons, it would be Seattle because they had that swagger. They have
100%.
Yeah, I mean, like John Gruden had a nickname for it. I forget exactly what it was, but I mean, those guys are physical, hard-nosed. They believe that they're the best in the league, and they believe that no matter how good their opponent is, they're better. I think that kind of mindset against Peyton Manning is exactly the mindset that you have to have. You can't be scared and be defensive. You have to be aggressive and go after any opportunity that he gives you. I think that would be probably the best chance a team has to knock off Denver is to be aggressive and just to go all out like that.
And you got to think, Seattle's got Bruce Irvin back, the linebacker. The rookie last year, he got 9 sacks, and he forced a fumble. He's back. Seattle's only getting better, so expect them to win a ton more games coming up.
Right.
Great defenses, great offenses. Can't ask for much more in an NFL season. Guys, thanks for joining me. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk some UMass athletics.
In their last game, the Minutemen suffered their 4th straight loss of the season, losing 24-7 to Vanderbilt. Then last week, the team suffered another setback as a story emerged in the Daily Hampshire Gazette about a Facebook petition by UMass football alumni against head coach Charlie Molnar, centering around a YouTube video produced by UMass video staff last year, which shows players wrestling and boxing on the field during winter training. While taking part in combatives during practice was not against NCAA regulations at the time the video was filmed, Chancellor Kumbal Subbaswamy has asked the Compliance Subcommittee of the Faculty Senate Athletic Council to investigate the circumstances of the video to see if the practices constituted student abuse. When Molnar heard about the story in the Gazette, he prepared his players for what was to come.
I just told them when the story comes out, you read it, you be the judge yourself. Guys that were here, they know what went on. Players that weren't here, hopefully the guys that were passed it along, told them what went on, and from there we just moved on. It was really, really short.
Sophomore quarterback A.J. Doyle said the team wasn't really impacted by the story.
And, honestly, no one really paid attention to it because we can't do anything about it. All we can do is focus on Bowling Green and getting ready for that game.
Molnar said he was just glad the story came out during the team's bye week so it wouldn't distract them from an upcoming game.
No, I don't think so. In fact, I was glad it wasn't during a game week because just the amount of time I had to expend on it. If we had a game, it would have really taken away from our preparations.
While the subcommittee investigates what happened last year, the team will focus on this year as they prepare to take on Bowling Green on Saturday.
Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Now joining me at the table to talk everyone's favorite, UMass Athletics, JMS, Jesse Mayfield-Seen, and Joey Sade. Guys, thanks for coming to the table. Got to start it off, Jesse. We just saw a great package from you, little in-depth security watch by yourself. I appreciate that here. Charlie Molnar, coach of the football team, in some hot water, not for their record for once. Little problems at practice. I think they're calling it combative practicing. I think the safe term they're using. As you saw in the package, basically it's a bunch of boxing and wrestling going down during practices, and he's catching some hot heat for it. JMS, why don't you talk to us a little bit about this and how Molnar's responding to it?
Oh my goodness, you made it sound like I just did some sort of Watergate investigation there.
In camo up in the top of the bleachers, painted gray. We saw you up there.
Well, if you saw me up there, then I wasn't doing it
right.
right.
Because we knew you were up there. Tell us a little more about Molnar.
But no, I really think, in terms of the NCAA regulation, I honestly think that it's probably a good thing, just in terms of my opinion, that the NCAA regulation has changed in terms of how combative practices are no longer allowed, because it seems like from the reports from the Daily Hampshire Gazette that there were some negative results from what happened with the UMass football team. It seems like players might have been getting hurt, might have been like dropping out and transferring because of just how harsh the practices were getting. And when you consider that, and you consider the results we're getting on the field, it seems like most of what came out of the practices was negative and wasn't all that good. So I'm glad that rule has changed. And as for what's going on with Molnar, I mean, in all honesty, when you think about the grand scheme of what goes on with college football scandals, and when you consider the fact that at the time that the video was filmed, it was within NCAA regulations, he's probably not going to get much more than a slap on the wrist. I mean, I don't know too much about this now. We only have limited so much information right now, just as the story's breaking, and a little more is probably going to come out. I don't know exactly how much more could come out. It seems like perhaps some people might. Who knows whether or not people will be speaking up more. So who knows whether or not much more will come out with this UMass subcommittee that's trying to investigate into it. Will find too much more information or not. But I mean, I figure the only way that Molnar would get much more than a slap on the wrist would be if they found out that he was still doing these practices while it was against NCAA regulations. That would be the only scenario I would think where he would get much more than a minor penalty.
And I mean, that's still a possibility. We only know, like you said, just a minor amount of the info, so that is still a possibility. Joey, now, as we saw, he has responded to the claims. What do you take of Molnar and his response to all of it and how he's handling it?
Well, one thing, what do you expect from the coach's response to that video? We know going into his responses, he's not going to give us a lot, just like any coach would if he sees something that's going against him, like this video. And my point when looking at this video and this whole scandal, if you want to call it, is one reason that this video is making news is because the team is not playing very well. They've only have one win in their past season and a half. Now, is that win because, is this video that much viral because the team is losing? And, Molnar's shown abusing the players or treating them wrong and in practice in the winter, or is it more of the fact that they're losing games because talent-wise they're just not there yet? I think this video has two ways of going about it. If they were actually winning and they started off the season on a win streak and they were actually performing well this season,
would this video even be a topic we're talking about? Or would it actually be in a light that it's a positive thing of what he did in practice in the winter? Oh, it pumped his guys up. Look what this did. It toughened their team up. Now they're winning.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're losing and they haven't won yet this season, I think that plays into it. And looking at the video, the wrestling, boxing, a lot of that happens in football in general. And does the practices that is shown in the video, does it actually help football on the field? Football in itself is a physical game. Those guys out there, they're not, sissies. They know how to play. They're tough guys. I don't think they needed boxing and wrestling to help them prove that they're tough. And I think the major difference is, talent-wise, they're just not there yet. They just moved into the FBS. They're playing a conference with a lot tougher teams. I'm not, physically, maybe they're not there yet as well because, they haven't recruited as well as they could have because this team just moved into the FBS. You're not expecting a very talented team. Mm-hmm. So I think it goes back to talent, the talent-wise. The practices they were doing, the wrestling and the boxing, physically, is that actually going to help them in the games in reality? If they're, talent-wise, they're not up to a team's standards, how are they going to beat a team?
I think it's an interesting point you bring up about them losing and this being brought up. Now, maybe I could see in a situation that UMass out of nowhere becomes one of the best teams in the country. Yeah, something like this pops up. But I think you raise a good point because this is actually getting brought up because, Jesse, we were talking about the alumni of the football team is actually petitioning for Molnar's firing or resignation.
Well, I think what they're petitioning for is for an improvement in the
fair treatment.
Yeah, and for better treatment of players.
So with that being said, do you think it has to, back to your point, it has to do with them losing record? Do you think the alumni is looking back, maybe a little embarrassed at what they're seeing from this football team and trying to point a finger at something?
Well, honestly, I think Joey actually has made a very good point here. You do have to wonder, if people would be more in support of Molnar and if this story would be as big a deal as it is, if the team was winning. Granted, the big scandals that we see on the big networks like ESPN and all that tend to be the big winning programs and everything, and those are the ones that get all the attention. But at the same time, perhaps the scandals at the smaller schools might come out a little faster because they aren't as easily covered up. People might be more willing to talk about them because teams aren't winning as much, and people are more willing to say, hey, you got to take more responsibility for what you're doing because you're not winning games. There's a possibility of that. And, people get a little more angry at the team and want to lash out at them if they're, if something like this pops up. It's a possibility that, something like this does in fact happen.
Yeah, well, we don't know what the repercussions will be. Like you said, it probably won't be much because of the timetable of the incidents. But it is an interesting topic when you look at this football team, what they went through last year, what they've been doing this year, and how maybe just the program as a whole, maybe it just needs to be looked at as if they really are a D1 team. Maybe there needs to be some reevaluations within the system. We'll see how that plays out. Off the gridiron, onto some more sports, less gossipy action. I want to talk about field hockey real quick. We got into them last week, and we were covering their upcoming game against Maryland. Lost the game. Tough loss for them. We were hoping for the victory here at UMass Sports Weekly. Didn't happen. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the game?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it was a tough weekend for UMass field hockey. They lost, like you said, to Maryland on Sunday, and 2 days before that, they had suffered an upset loss against UNH in overtime. Tough loss as they were holding a 2-0 lead going into the final minute of the game, and then just gave up 2 quick goals, and then gave up the goal in overtime to take that loss. So really 2 tough losses for the UMass field hockey team over the weekend. And I think it was really 2 different kinds of losses. In the case of UNH, the team really was playing better than UNH for most of the game, and then it was really just sort of a case of the team, trying hard to protect its lead, getting a little cautious, and as Coach Carla Tagliente put it, later in the weekend, playing not to lose. Trying to, like I said, trying to protect the lead, and as a result, they weren't playing the way they normally would, weren't attacking the way they normally would, and it left some openings for UNH to attack, and as a result, make the comeback. And in the case of Maryland, that was just a case of the better team winning. I was there, I watched that game, and Maryland's offense was really good. A very deep offense and a very fast offense capable of making some very impressive counterattacks. I mean, they made two of their goals came on counterattacks off of UMass penalty corners, where 1 second the UMass is in the attack zone, and then all of a sudden Maryland's got the ball. 3 seconds later, they're scoring a goal, and I swear, if I don't know how I managed to see the goal scored, it would be like if I blinked, I would have missed it. They were just that fast. It was, just a case of the better team won that game. I mean, there's a reason they were the number 2 team in the nation, and it showed on the scoreboard with a 4-1 loss. And, that's just unfortunate. That really the more disappointing loss was the one to UNH. But, obviously any loss is disappointing for a team, but they just got to look ahead to their upcoming games against Northeastern and BU.
Yeah, it's you can take a loss when you weren't the better team out there. That's easy to take. But losing to a team like UNH, that's hard. Especially, that's hard to lose to a team like UNH and then look around the corner to the number 2 team in the country. Hard flip there. Hopefully they can turn around, and like you said, some games coming up that they could turn around this season. Joey, speaking of turn around this season, women's soccer, I want to get to them. 3-game win streak, really playing well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what they're doing?
Casey, like you said, they've won 3 games in a row. They're 4-1 in their last 5 games, and they are turning it around big time. And I'll take you back to the beginning of their season. They came in with 2 big obstacles. One, they lost their leading scorer from last year in Moa Matson. She was big time. She led them in points, assists, goals. She was their total offense. And 2, they came in with 12 freshman players and 2 other sophomores who transferred. So they had 14 new players on a roster, in addition to losing their best player. So starting off, they were 0-3, which was kind of expected. They were playing non-conference game against tough teams. And, starting a season, having to go through that type of transition is going to be difficult for a young team, especially. They only have 6 upperclassmen, 3 seniors and 3 juniors. So for them, like you said, 3-game winning streak. I'd say one of the bigger performances I'd take is their freshman goalkeeper. She's a redshirt freshman, Danielle Krasinski. She's come in and played big time for them. Last year, she started off the season, and I talked to Coach Ed Matz, and he told me she had a chance of starting the season as a goaltender last year, and she got injured. So last year they used a combination of 2 seniors, and obviously those 2 seniors graduated, so it was her spot this year, and she stepped up big time. Their defense has been playing great, led by senior captain Lawrence Gestovich. She's playing real-time minutes. She's defending. She's playing. She's leading that defense. And in their last 3 games, they played pretty good on offense, which is something they lacked in the beginning of the season. They got off to in their last game. They got off to 2 goals in the first half, which is pretty impressive. Dating back that 4 of their last 5 games, they were scoreless in their first half. So scoring early in soccer, especially soccer, which is a sport where goals come by a minimum, and 1 or 2 goals, especially early, can change a game completely. It can put a team in momentum, and they rode that momentum last game. And they have all their 6 of their left 6 games are all conference games. So they have to play big time to make the A10 conference.
Yeah, big schedule to finish off the year. Well, much like North American football, as we spoke about earlier, European football, teams like defense really winning games now for teams that we're paying attention to. This topic, I need to take a deep breath for a minute. I'm really excited to talk about it. JMS men's soccer. Tell us what happened.
Well, Casey, a little bit of an uplifting thing to say about the men's soccer team. They got their first win of the season over the weekend against Siena. They won by a score of 5-2, and just to tell you what that score exactly means, before this game, in their first 9 games of the season, they had scored 3 goals all year. And in this game, they scored 5 goals to get their first win of the year. So really quite the monumental game for the men's soccer team.
Gotta wonder where it's been all year.
Yeah, you really got to...
Saving it for Siena, I can understand that.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, for the first 15 minutes of that game, the team was getting outshot by Siena. They couldn't even get a shot off. And then their first shot of the game, they were able to get a goal on that shot, and they go up 1-0. And then after that goal, it was like watching a different team out there. They were playing much faster with a lot of momentum, and most importantly, they were executing their shots. They were getting them on goal. I talked about this last week, how much the team has struggled with getting the ball on target, getting it at the net, and, for the first time all year, the team actually got more shots on goal than their opponent, which was interesting because Siena launched 26 shots at UMass to UMass's 15. But UMass had 9 shots on goal, whereas Siena only had 8. So this time the roles were kind of reversed.
Launching was the correct word there, really, launching them.
Yeah, exactly. The roles were kind of reversed. This time it was the opponents that were sort of, launching shots all over the place, whereas UMass was the one who was more on target, and it showed up in the scoreboard. UMass played very well offensively, and the defense was able to back them up. Nick Ruiz had a very solid performance, finished with 6 saves. And, they really got some really good performances, particularly from veteran player Josh Schwartz. He's been their offensive leader all year. He was a veteran. He was an offensive leader last year, and he finished with a great performance, 2 goals and 2 assists. And, it's a really good way to finish non-conference play, before they start off with their A10 play, with a win.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to hear. Excited for the men's soccer team. Hopefully they can take these 5 goals, maybe spread those out over the next couple of games as well. Maybe try to throw a few more wins in there. I like it. I like that they came firing, but let's see, maybe spread it out a little bit. A few more wins, less goals per game. We'll see how it works out. Guys, thanks for joining me. Before we get to NHL, we'll actually have a segment from JMS.
Number 7 UMass field hockey team took on number 2 Maryland at Garber Field Sunday afternoon. The Minutewomen trying to bounce back after a heartbreaking overtime loss to UNH on Friday, while the Terrapins were hoping to keep their undefeated season alive. The first half was relatively quiet, but with a minute left to play, Anna Desoy puts the first goal in for the Terrapins, giving them a 1-0 lead going into halftime. 10 minutes into the second half, and the Terrapins extend their lead as Emma Rissinger squeaks one past goalkeeper Sam Carlino to give Maryland a 2-0 lead. 4 minutes later, and it's Desoy once again, scoring her second goal of the game to give the Terrapins a commanding 3-0 lead. With a little over 10 minutes left to play, UMass gets a penalty corner. Hannah Prince takes the shot and it's blocked, but Lindsey Bowman grabs it and puts it into the net to put the Minutewomen on the board. 2 minutes left to play, and UMass draws another penalty corner. Brooke Sabia gets the ball and dribbles up the left side of the attack zone. Sabia tries to pass it in close to the net, but hits traffic. The play is blown dead, though, and UMass draws another penalty corner. The Minutewomen take their second penalty corner, and Brooke Sabia takes the ball and fires a shot off the foot of one of the Terrapins, giving UMass another penalty corner. On its third straight penalty corner, UMass tries going to Hannah Prince this time, but the shot is saved, and the play is once again blown dead, getting UMass yet another penalty corner. On its fourth attempt now, UMass tries going to Hannah Prince again. Prince's shot is blocked, but Prince tries to recover and tries passing it in close to the net, but the play is blown dead once again, and UMass gets its 5th straight penalty corner. With time running out, UMass takes its 5th straight penalty corner attempt, but loses possession. Maryland takes the ball and wastes no time moving it upfield. Katie Gerzebek takes the ball and passes it across midfield up to Desoy. Desoy takes the ball and passes it into the attack zone, where it's tipped by Rissinger over to Alyssa Parker, who passes it over to Haley Turner, who puts it into the net for the Terrapins, giving the game a final score of 4-1. After the game, Coach Carla Tagliente talked about how the team fared against Maryland's powerful offense.
It's a challenge. I think their offense, when you think of offense, it's just not their front three. It's, you attack as a collective group, and I think that their offense is very powerful. I mean, it's just demonstrated. They had 2 goals off corner breakouts that, are just outstanding. That's just international level play right there. But, I thought we did a great job. First half, I think they had, I don't know how many shots they had, 3 shots, I think. I'm not sure they had a shot until about 13 minutes left in that half. I thought our defense as a group, our collective defense, our pressing, our game plan, our tactics, they executed them great. The fact that they can capitalize on, I think, 10 shots and have 4 goals, that's a powerful attack. But overall, I'm pleased with a lot of things from this game. Stat lines, stats aren't everything, but for us to generate 12 shots, I think we had 10 shots, 12 corners. If you told me going into this game we'd have 12 corners, I would have said we would win this game, and we didn't. So, we need to go back and work on a few things. But overall, I'm happy with what we generated on attack at times. We need to finish, and we need to make the play more dangerous. And we can definitely learn a lot from what they're doing out there on their team.
Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Now joining me at the table to discuss NHL early in the year, Demi Foley and Jess Levinson. Guys, thanks for joining me. Lot to talk about in the NHL. This segment could have been our whole show today if we wanted it to. But we're going to cover some of the main points. Started off with realignment. A lot of shifts going on. One of the big ones, Red Wings hopping over with the Bruins. Changing up the outlook of the NHL. Also going to change up the playoffs a little bit. Why don't you talk to us about realignment a little bit, Jess?
Well, there's now only 2 conferences, 4 divisions. They've moved all of the teams closer geographically, so that creates some new rivalries, some new overall teams that are going to be playing each other. And now, actually, all the teams play every other team in the NHL twice this season. So we're going to have a lot of new teams that we're playing.
Demi, what are you seeing from realignment that's going to change up the league a little bit?
I personally think, Casey, this could be a really good thing. I really do like it. Like Jess was saying, it's designed to get the teams that were playing in different time zones into the same time zone as their fan base. So like you were saying before, Detroit's hopping over with the Bruins, but they're also moving to the Eastern Conference along with Columbus. So now they're in the same time zone, and Winnipeg is hopping over to the Western Conference, which when you have a young franchise like that, you really want to get the fan base to grow, and so I feel like that's going to be a great shift for them. The other thing that I find really cool is that each team gets to play in all 30 of the arenas at least one time. And so I think that is really good for the sport, for the teams. I just think it's an all-around great shift. I do like it a lot. And so right now I'm just curious to see how it falls out. I don't really see too many negatives, but, you never know when the ball gets moving, or the puck, should I say. And I'm also really interested in the wild card category. So each division, their 4th team that will go to the playoffs is the wild card, and I think that is so cool. So that's another thing that I like. So, Jess, you can feel free to comment about that if you want, or whatever.
Or not. No, I mean, the wild card is a good change. Looking at this, though, I mean, you're seeing a lot of positives in it. It's definitely the teams playing at each arena. It's good for the game, but do you think this move was made in looking at making the game better, or do you think it's a little bit of a marketing tool as well?
I definitely think that you can look at it in both ways. Me, of course, being, the avid fan, I want to look at it and they're making the best decision for the game, but I do see what you're saying from the marketing standpoint. When we originally talked a year and a half ago back, I believe we're in the same position talking about the realignment plans, and it happened when Winnipeg was floundering, and they were like, we need to do something, we need to move this team, and so that's where the marketing aspect could come in a little bit, get the franchise to grow. If a franchise is booming, naturally the profits are going to be much larger, so I definitely see where you're coming from that.
Yeah, it's definitely on the rise. It's not making the profits that you see in the NFL and stuff like that, but NHL is definitely on the rise, that's for sure, and that's why we're talking about it here on UMass Sports Weekly. More changing in the NHL, not just with realignment, but also within the game itself. A lot of rule changes, hybrid icing, smaller visors, smaller nets, but the big one we want to talk about is hybrid icing, because this is where we're going to see a lot of effect on the game. Now, Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about hybrid icing?
So, hybrid icing has moved the call for icing back to the face-off dots in the defensive zone. So, the refs are going to have to be making the call. It's subjective for them because the players are not going to be touching the puck anymore. So, it could have a really big effect on some huge calls down the line. The players might get a little upset that they voted for it. But it will be great for the player safety. Joni Pitkanen of the Carolina Hurricanes last year, he tore his heel, broke his heel on a play that was on the regular icing, and he might have his career be over because of that play. So I think it's great that that the players will be safer, and I think the refs will actually do a decent job at learning how to make these calls. So I think it's a good thing for the NHL.
Demi, it's my understanding you're not that concerned for the player's safety.
Now, when you put it like that, you make me just sound so cold-hearted, Casey. It's not that I'm not concerned with their safety. My only fear is that we've done touch icing, or we've seen touch icing now, since 1937. And so when the changes start coming, last year we saw a lot of concussions, and then it was like, do the refs penalize the players much longer for these concussions? And so now I just fear that the more and more we change the game, it sort of takes away from that original tradition. And so that's what I always get worried about. I have a love for the game, a love for the original context of the game. And my only other thing, too, is that I have faith in the linesmen. They know what they're doing. They're professionals naturally, but I feel like they're given a lot of power. They have to respond a smidgen of a second faster, and that can make all the difference in the world when you're at such a fast pace with hockey. And so the thing that I don't like is that, let's say, we're in a Game 7 situation, and a couple of the players have said this in, interviews, and the ref makes a call and it's wrong. It's a Game 7 situation of a playoff contestant, and all of a sudden, that play is blown. I have a tough time sitting with that. So that's one of my issues that I have. If they do make a false call, the faceoff does come back to center ice, so that's a lot better than going all the way back in the other end for a ref's mistake. Mm-hmm. So that's my only thing. It's not that I want the players to get hurt, but, hockey's an aggressive sport. It's hands-on. It's, we're checking, we're hitting, it's aggressive. So if they get bumped around a little bit, it's all part of the game. Do I want people hurt and out for weeks at a time? No, of course I don't. But I just don't want, the originality and the context of the game to change if we start giving too much control over to the different, commissioners to change too many of the rules, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean. I think I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I think they should just keep it how it is. I don't think it needed the change. I think what the change is coming from, and this is a strong opinion, but I think it's just all part of the softening of American sports. We're seeing it in football. You can't hit high, you can't hit low, you can't hit anywhere. We're seeing it in baseball, where you can't hit a guy to respond to hitting a guy, which is what's always happened in baseball. And now they're taking it over to hockey, and I think hockey's the last place it deserves to go. It should be, because there's fighting in hockey. How are you going to get worried about hits when there's fighting in hockey? But, that's just my 2 cents. That's what I think. And we'll see how it plays out. It could be a positive change for the game. We got to see it play out. Starts tonight, and we'll see it as the season rolls on. One other rule change I just want to touch on real quick, because it actually goes back to your love for the original game, is shallower nets and smaller goalie equipment. That's bringing it all the way back to the old days when they had basically shin pads, 2 gloves, no helmet. What do you? Now this is obviously going to increase the scoring. Do you think it's a good thing for the game? Because there's 2 sides to this. There's a lot, 2 different opinions about this.
This for me is a little bit different than the hybrid icing. I can see both sides. I'm not really biased to either side. I think it's very cool that we're going to be able to see what the centers are going to be able to do behind the net. We're going to have some different passing plays going on. It's going to open up a lot of space behind the net. But I also feel like you were saying, Casey, that the score is going to go up because now we have unbelievable talent, and they have so much space to wrap around the net. So I feel like we're going to have a lot of wraparound goals going on, different types of stick curves that have developed over time. And so higher scores, yes. I do like it, but I don't have a side that I'm rooting for either way.
Yeah, one thing too, I don't think they gave the goalies a lot of time to adjust. I mean, this is a pretty recent rule, and the season's getting right into it. They didn't give them a lot of time to practice with these pads, and it is a big difference. You got guys like Ryan Miller who wear pads out of the size of the net. How he's going to get used to these smaller pads now. It should be interesting to see.
Well, Casey, looking at the bigger picture, right now goal scoring is at a very, very low point. There's 5 goals a game in the NHL today. 20 years ago, it used to be 7 goals a game. And that's when you had the superstar players putting up 150 points a season. And you had these icons that America really looked up to and Canada looked up to. And the NBA, they have those huge stars. NHL needs those huge stars. And I think goal scoring is a great way to raise these players up and make them icons.
Yeah, I'd like to see some Gretzky numbers getting put on the board for a season. Be pretty interesting.
I mean, Jess, I definitely am validating your opinion. I totally see where you're coming from. My only thing is that I don't think that we should try to alter things about the game to try to control the score. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that the main point should be, let's open up space behind the net so we can try to control who's going to be a star player in the league. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because already you have players like Sidney Crosby who's come off of so many injuries, concussion after concussion, and now he's arguably one of the best players in the world, putting the Penguins at top of the Eastern Conference. And that's a prediction that's happening now. So I just feel uneasy about believing that we want to alter the format of the net and the ice and the pads and so forth to try to create stars in hockey. They should be creating themselves. If they're talented players, they should improve. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be a false.
But to Jess's point, they're not creating the stars, but to create themselves, it's pretty impossible with the goalie pads that they have today. That's why it's not that the players have gotten worse since back. They've gotten much better.
Yeah, I don't think they've
But
gotten
same
worse,
thing with the
but
goalies. The goalies have gotten much better. So there's no way to get high scores like that. There used to be. We may see it now. We may see some crazy numbers in the first year that may surprise some people because they're not used to it. It's been a while. But I think you're right, Jess. I think that could definitely put some more LeBron Jameses, if you will, in the NHL, some worldwide names, and bring the sport up a little bit. I'd like to see it. Want to touch on the Bruins preseason now, which has looked pretty stellar from my point of view. Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about their preseason so far?
Okay, Casey. Well, the Bruins went 6-1 in the preseason. They had the second best goal differential out of all the teams in the preseason. One of the Bruins' biggest holes was their third line winger, and everyone they tried out at that position in the preseason played pretty well. Nick Johnson, I believe, scored 4 goals, and he was looking like their best option to get on the team. They waived him. So
good sign.
Yes. It shows great confidence.
Soderberg was there in the playoffs. He hadn't been in the NHL for a number of years since the Bruins drafted him, but he's looking like he'll be in that position. He'll be an offensive threat this year. Aginla, Eriksson, both looking good. The Bruins have had a great preseason. I think they're going to have a great regular season too.
Yeah, Demi, coming off this Sagan trade, and we got these whole new first 2 lines with losing Horton. What do you think about the first 2 lines for the Boston Bruins?
I'm very confident in Julian. I'm confident in what we did in preseason hockey. However, I don't want to rely on that. I feel like preseason hockey is a great experimental time. We have a team like the Rangers who are going to be a top contender, in my opinion, and they didn't win one preseason game. So I don't want to just go off of preseason hockey because I feel like it's a good trial run for the teams to, get their feet wet, so to speak. The Sagan trade, it personally, in my opinion, it had to be done. I just didn't think he did what he should have or what he was capable of in the playoffs. And with that being said, the Blackhawks were an unbelievable team, and nobody can take away how great their win was in the finals, as tough as that is for me to say as a Boston fan. But it wasn't like he made some impeccable impact in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. All the way through the Rangers series, it was kind of like, when is Sagan going to act like he's even on the ice? We're waiting for it. So the fact that we lost him doesn't necessarily concern me. I'm also a Horton fan, but the other thing, too, that's hard is he was a very inconsistent player. So when you have a team that's relying on his presence on the ice, and then there's random nights when he's just not there, it almost makes it a little harder. Whereas if you have a lot of consistent players and set lines and people you can count on, and that's what you exercise your team out as going into game nights, I feel like it creates a much better position to capitalize on those wins and have a much more reliable team.
Yeah, I mean, I think they look good as far as Horton. Good riddance. He you want to leave for money. Not a Bruin to me. You're gonna leave for more money.
Yeah, not a Bruin.
When you got guys like Patrice Bergeron who take pay cuts, who is one of the best players in the league. I'm gonna go on a limb right here, and I'm gonna say it early in the year. I think the Bruins' first 2 lines are gonna be 2 of the best lines in the NHL. Not the best 1 and 2 lines. I think they're gonna be the best 2 lines in the NHL. I think our second line will be better than any first line in the NHL. I think Bruins are going to have a historic season. I have a lot of confidence in them this year, if you can't tell. Tuukka is great goalie. They're just a deep roster. Chara at D. I just think they're going to have a great year, and I'm excited to be talking about it throughout the year. One more topic we want to cover over at the New York Rangers. Well, pretty much everybody's favorite coach, I'd say, John Tortorella. He got fired. He was a fun guy to watch, but no longer with the Rangers. They weren't having the playoff success that they were expected to have by pretty much everyone. And he has been replaced by Alain Vigneault. And Demi, what do you think is going to happen in New York with the coaching change? Because Tortorella did create a complete atmosphere for that team, and now that's all gone.
I see what you're saying, Casey. I don't think it's necessarily all gone because I view Tortorella as a type of coach who you bring in when you need to make your team tough. You need to create structure, you need to create discipline, you need to get them going, you need to make a good foundation. But after a while, when you're working with these professional players who know their skills and the team has developed over time, when you have a coach like that who's there for a numerous amount of years, it gets old. They are ready for a change of pace. You saw they lost respect for him, some practices kind of went haywire. We talked about it a little bit last year, and it was just kind of like he was losing his touch. So now you take someone like Vigneault, who's more of what we like to call a player's coach. Players like him. He works with the players. He's more of a passive approach, and you bring him in to change it up with what the Rangers are used to, and I think it could create a very nice chemistry. On the other hand, the Canucks, they're kind of used to that, the players coach, passive, being coddled, so to speak. No one's in their face yelling at them, getting them, ready to go, sort of igniting a fire. So now we're going to bring Tortorella in. So I think it was almost like the perfect sort of swap. If we could pick a swap, I like that one. If it were to work out for both teams, I think we're going to see some nice chemistries develop.
Should be interesting to see. It's definitely going to change how both teams approach games, that's for sure.
True.
Not just in their strategy, but in attitude, like you said in Vancouver. Not really a scary physical team. They got 1 or 2 guys, but now you come out with Tortorella. How do you think he's going to affect Vancouver?
Okay, so Torts is a very, very intimidating kind of coach. The Canucks right now, they're not used to that kind of behavior from their coach. And Vigneault actually gave them a lot of success with his coaching style. So I think Torts is going to have a real challenge. And probably the biggest issue that I have with Torts in Vancouver is that Luongo had his confidence basically deteriorated throughout the season. Corey Schneider was put ahead of him. And Torts is now going to have to rebuild Luongo's confidence after Luongo also had a bad season. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I think it'll go pretty bad, actually. But Vigneault at the Rangers, I think that's actually a great fit because the Rangers have a lot of offensive weapons that really didn't put up a lot of goals or assists or points last year under Torts. Vigneault has a freer offensive system. I think Nash is going to have a huge year. And Stepan, after signing his contract, also going to take a step up. So I think that'll be good for them.
Yeah, the Rangers have had the tools for a Stanley Cup team for quite some time. New coach in there. We'll see how that affects it. NHL kicks off tonight. Bruins kick off Thursday. Guys, thanks for joining me. That's it for our episode today. Make sure to check us out on Facebook at UMass Sports Weekly. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Weekly. Same on Instagram. Also check out our blog, Sports Weekly at WordPress. And that's it for tonight. Join us next week, same time, same place.